Welcome, dear friends, to this beautiful Saturday, March 19th, when we come together once more to speak with you, to connect with you, to share a message where we can connect with one another, with our Creator, the mentors of the SSP, our mentors as well, and our Master Jesus, and our Mother, Father God. Today, we will be speaking about something very interesting to all of us, good and evil, right? Who does not want to know about good, and who does not want to study evil so we can perhaps avoid the negative things of our lives? But before we go into the message and we pass the word to Daniel Santos, who's going to lead this afternoon into this evening for us, let us read a passage of the book Happy Life by the mentor Joana de Anjos through the hands of the medium Divaldo Pereira Franco. The message of today is message 163. It is from the old version of the book, page 233, and Joana de Angelis says the following: Sincerely forgive the prevailing ignorance. Do not expect any justification from the other, the one who offended you. Overcome the ingredients of his aggression and try really to forget the bad occurrence. The person who carries grudges is intoxicated by the miasmas that they expel. The aggressor is unbalanced and needs the medicine of goodness to recover. He has lost his lucidity, and for this reason he attacks. Give him the opportunity that he did not give you. The position of the generous person is always more comfortable. It is better for you to be the giver, meaning that you have already attained what your neighbor lacks. On this message of forgiveness, we see perhaps a duality that we're trying to connect with here today, right? The good and the bad. The bad has already done to be repaid with the good, with kindness, so that we don't engage as well. But I'll leave that to Daniel to talk more about it and connect with the message with us later on. On that note, I would like to invite everyone to connect with our opening prayer so we can engage in this moment, asking our dear Mother, Father God to bless us all with the teachings that we are about to receive, the message that we will be reminded of how we live in these dualities of planet Earth right now, the good, the bad. Help us understand where it comes from, help understand where we're going with this message. And we also extend our gratitude and transform it into our blessings towards those who may be in need of a moment like this, those who are in need to stop, settle down, but they cannot, but they have not conquered yet the ability to do so. We ask you, dear Lord, that you also bless the mind and heart of Daniel Santos, who will conduct this meeting today. May he be the vessel that will guide us into greatness. May this moment be a point of light in all of our lives, in the point of light in our homes as we follow this message. And may we all stay with your guidance, protection, and with your permission, we start this meeting today. And so be it. As we were saying earlier today, dear friends, we will be speaking about good and evil, and Daniel will lead this message with us today. And with no further ado, Daniel, it's all for you.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, as you mentioned, today we will discuss good and evil. So let me just share my presentation here. As you see, I have a nice cartoon over there doing a representation of what is good, what is evil, right? So pretty much when we talk about good and evil, we relate it to either like the demon or the Satan, and good as uh, God, right? And today we will take a closing look on this duality that we have about good and evil. Talk about good and evil is not something easy to do it, right? We have been, as a humanity, we have been going through several periods of time where this topic, good and evil, has been discussed. Um, and and it's not a simple um, question to be answered, right? It's very complex and even can bring conflict or problems to people if you decide to discuss about what is evil, what is good. But today, our idea here is just to take a look under the Spiritist view, what is good and what is evil. We don't have any pretension to tell you what you think what is good or evil. We're just going to present some um, um, information that we have acquired from the superior spirits regards to these questions about good and evil. One of the things that come to our minds is that is good evil something created by God? I mean, we learned that the creator is all powerful, right? He has created the universe, everything, all living beings, and we all have this question like, how come God allowed bad things happen or allowed evil to take place? And especially nowadays that we are in the current time, we are experience again a war that happens. Although we may think, oh, the war is not here, but anything that happening in our planet nowadays affects everyone, despite if you are in the ground zero of the war or not. We are affected because either we know someone that is living that place over there in that region, or we see the news and we really feel touched by what we see, the destruction, what you see, and much of the time we ask the question, why God allowed this to happen? What is the source of evil, or why does it still happen, in the 21st century? So we're gonna do a little bit. We're gonna bring some of information here for us to reflect, and at the end of the presentation, the idea is that we at least has more element to understand why we go through this, and also I would like to finalize this presentation with um, a positive touch in a way that you can reflect what you need to do, and this information that we're going to bring here to you, how you're going to use those information to do more good, right? Because I'm sure you're already doing good out there, but sometimes we even ourselves we feel that it's not enough, right? What we should need to do it in order to make our lives better, and making our life better will for sure will translate to our society, right? um, so the first question that I would like to bring, and it's pretty much the definition of what good and evil based on the dictionary, right? I think is a good practice to start a topic like this by um, create a standard. So what the scholars understand by good and evil. And so when we talk about good, if we go to Merriam-Webster dictionary, we're going to find that good is something conforming to the moral order of the universe. So it's a very general definition. Also, something useful or beneficial. So by negate this affirmative would be evil, right? So if something that we do is not according to a moral order of the universe, anything that disturbs the environment of the universe in the sense here, and this universe can be applied to a family setting, a society, a country, right? So will be anything that disturb that would be evil, right? Anything that's conformed to that would be good, right? And needs to be useful and beneficial. Beneficial not only for ourselves, but also for the whole community, right? So, and evil would be the fact of suffering, misfortune, and wrongdoing, a cosmic evil force. So here is very interesting because we already introduced a new element, a force. So the the scholars come and define evil as this force. So the force can be neutral, right? Whatever direction we put the force would either become good or would become evil, right? And you may ask the question, but Daniel, so is evil is not only related to what I do, but what about, in nature, like disasters? Is this considered an evil force? By definition, is a destruction that will probably kill the innocent people, destroy environments. So we probably will put this as an evil force. But then the question is was who is responsible for this, right? Is this a creation by God? So all these questions, I would like to. I'm not gonna answer because I don't have the answer per se, but I will take what the spirituals bring to us, so we can reflect on that, and probably has at least an idea that whatever happened, there is a control behind of that, right? But we also has responsibilities that we share those responsibilities. So I would like to start with this passage, this question that is in the book, the Genesis. By the way, the Genesis has the third chapter of the Genesis. Is the title is Good and Evil. So we are inspired to talk about this because we are doing the study of the Genesis every Thursday, and we just finalized, like last Thursday, we just finalized this chapter 3, that talks about good and evil. But the idea here is not talk about the chapter per se. We're gonna, do a highlight under the Spiritist teaching. We're gonna bring a lot of information from the Spiritist book as well. But I would like to start with this one here, that um, is a question um, that we pose, and the answer is in this chapter. The question is, what are the causes of all negative behavior in human beings, right? So when we talk about negative behavior, is a behavior that the consequence will not going to be beneficial. Either we're going to be a harmful consequence or a consequence that will bring suffering, according to the definition, right? So the question is a negative behavior. So the question is, what is the cause, right? What is the cause? And so we're gonna bring a passage that is in the. Oh, okay, so and then I would like to ask this question: is this cause related to passions, or is it related to a free will? Right. This is a question for you. What do you think? You know. So the negative behavior that human being presents in our society is a consequence of passions or is a consequence of free will? Okay, let's see what Kardec mentions in the Genesis. This is item number 10. After a brief discussion, Kardec says, all passions have a providential benefit. To fail to believe this is to assume, to fail to believe this is to assume that God would have made something intrinsically useless and harmful. Only abuse constitutes evil, and individuals engaged in abuse by virtue of their free will. I think this paragraph, this phrase, is already answer, right? It's neither passion, neither free will. It's how we apply this, right? How we act, right? So the abuse of these two things that It's part of our biology, it's part of our evolution as a spirit. We need to have passion. As he mentioned here, all passions have a providential benefit, right? We need to have some passion to help us to do things, right? Because if we don't have that, we would be like not motivated to do it, right? But the question here is the abuse, right? There is nothing wrong if you wanted to um, 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 better your life, you know, as long as you don't step up in other people's life, right? There is nothing wrong. You have a desire to go and prosperity, desire to, you know, live a better life, um, to enjoy even material things. But for the moment that you cross the line to have those passion, those moments, then you are not um, according, we are disturbing the environment, the universe, right? As we read, we are not conform this balance that the universe needed in order to function. Then we create problems. Then we have consequence. Then we have suffering, right? So let us move on. One of the things that we need to keep in mind is the act of good and evil um, is not only a philosophical question, right? It's something that is embedded in our evolution, right? And one of the things that we should not take out of the equation is the intention, right? Action and intention. So for us to think, okay, if, for example, I'll bring an example here for you. And I know that this can be a little bit controversial. Let's think about the Holocaust, okay? Let's think about what Hitler did, okay? And this is documented in history, right? We all know that, okay? So if he had a good intention to do the Holocaust, if he had not killed the Jewish people with atrocity, because it was atrocity the way it was done, that characterize a less evil action. In another word, what I wanted to bring to you is this. Um, an action with good intention, do you think that if an action with good intentions will lessen the evil of its effect? Let me know. So think about it, about this question. And I want you to put your thoughts in the chat box here. And if you are following through our Facebook, just think about this question. What do you think about this? That depends how you act will diminish or increase the evil effect that comes from that action. That's very important, right? The other thing is, for example, if you are by yourself in an island, will you everything you will find yourself doing some evil? There is nobody involved. There is no even like it's just you, your house in an island without even animals or nature. Because then, if you go and kill animal in an atrocity way or destroy nature, then you are creating a problem for the environment. So, would you act in an evil way? So I wanted to, the end of this talk, go back and see what's your thought on this sentence. Okay. You may already have your answer. You may think, okay, you know, no, doesn't last the evil, may last the evil, but you know, it still is an evil act. And the other question that we can bring to you is like, what is the difference between evil and bad, right? If I do something, how can I characterize that something is evil? How can I characterize something is bad, right? It's something that we need to analyze. Something that I do to myself is bad, right? Or is evil. If I harm myself, is an evil action or is a bad action? Now, if I do something with intention to harm other person, is this a bad intention or is a evil action? So you see, things not so clear. It's not black and white, right? And white. Um, things can be very complicated, and because of this, we can create wars. We can create. Our society is based on this distinction between good and evil. How you perceive that. Something that is done in one place is not accepted in another place. Would be considered evil, right? All this is for us to reflect before we judge, right? Because it's very easy for us to jump in and say, oh, this is bad, this is evil, this is good, this is not good. And what's the authority we have for that, right? So to see that to talk about good and evil is not something easy. It's not something like that we don't have the answer. What is was bad, what is evil, what is was good in the past, nowadays is not good anymore, right? And good and evil has different gradient, different levels, right? Okay, let us move on. So I hope you guys is already thinking about this question. An action of good intentions will lessen the evil, will diminish the evil of its effect, right? You may say yes, no. I think it's yes because of this or that. Or no, is evil, no matter how, you know what I mean? So it's up to you. There is no wrong answer because we all have our own free will to define what we think is good, what we think is bad. So from the psychological perspective of view, or in the moral terms, how do we see good and evil? And pretty much by looking virtues and vices, right? So, and this all is related to human behavior, right? And if you put this in a scale, so we have one side is going to be good, the other side is going to be evil, and good would be characterized by actions or character or behavior of like benevolence, altruism, sacrifice. The sacrifice here is especially sacrifice in pro of others or for a cause, right? Or you know, things that we're gonna do to help others. You know, we are not doing the self-sacrifice to help only myself, right? So that's in this context here. The empathy that we develop for others. This is virtues that is characterized in the moral sense as good, right? Right? Be benevolent, you know. So this act of good, this is a virtue that we are uh, working to acquire, right? So the opposite of that would be self-centered, narcissism. I hope I spell right, narcissism. Selfishness, right? Prejudice. And we have a list of long um, behavior that is considered bad, it's considered evil, right? Because we will affect other people, right? Um, if you just think about yourself, so we talk about the Holocaust here. So if we have to get like two people to represent this um, human behavior here in the last century, we would probably put it like Gandhi in the good side and Hitler in the evil side. We are just like, we are not judging here, but we are just putting what has been written in history, right? Based on the action, the behavior action, right? The self-centered, the narcissism, the prejudice, right? And the other side we see Gandhi, one side we see Hitler, and the other side we see Gandhi. So it's two, it's a duality yeah, human behavior duality that we have observed on that. And this, I mean, we are bringing two people here, but this we find every day in our lives in this planet. We have people that transitate between these two side of the scale. Even ourselves, the majority of the population is not like all the time good, but it's not all the time evil. We learn in Spiritism that we are in a planet of trial and expiation, which means that evil still prevail, like more than 50%. But it's not that we have more than 50% evil people in this planet. Is the behavior, is like the frequency of our actions that sometimes is more for things that's not good than things that's not good to things that is considered evil. Evil because doesn't help us, doesn't help or cause harm to others, or doesn't help the society, right? So this is another way that we can look on this duality, good and evil, right? So a lot of questions, and this really can bring um, sometime can bring to people conflict, right? Because depends of your emotional level, you can transitate from one side to another, right? We can, if we see something happen on the street that we consider is not just, we can really do things that's not good, or we can do things that's good to go and help, you know. So each one of us, we are in a different level um, of evolution. So it depends of level that we translate on this scale from good to bad, or from good to evil, evil to good. And and you may ask why, right? Why I wanted to do good, but I end up doing something that is evil. That was a question that Paul asked, right? Paul, when after he became a Christian, followed Jesus' teachings, he asked himself why in his mind, he wanted to be a good person, but his action is still not good. So we go through this process, right? And things go slowly sometimes. So I wanted to bring this is like a survey that was done here in the US, just to give for us a context, because we may ask, do we have more evil things nowadays? This survey was done last year, in the middle of the pandemic, and most of America says that suffering in the world comes from people, not from God. And this was a research. The sources that the Pew Research Center was the institute, is a charitable institute that conduct this research. As we can see here, let me put my mouse here. So the question is, most of the suffering in this world comes from the action of people, not from God. So we see that more than 80%, between 80 to 90% of people believe on that. And we see here that this was done amongst people that is religious people, but also there is people in this research that was uh, not a religion person, was considered atheist, right? So, and we see that majority of people here in the US, more than 80% believe that, the suffering and the evil that's done and the bad that's done is not God's fault, is our fault. So we already have this belief inside of us, right? The second and third question is very interesting too. So the second question is, God chose not to stop the suffering because it is part of a large plan. So majority of the people believe that there is a large plan, that God, God knows that suffering and evil exists, but it's part of a plan. I don't know, because I'm not God, so I think it's very presumptuous for us to try to, you know, um, to say what God is thinking, right? But that is what majority of the people said. The third one, Satan is responsible for most of the suffering in the world. So we see that we have more than 50%, people that still believe. Of course, this is done majority among religious people here in the U.S. And this survey was done in between 6,000 to 7,000 people, adult people that respond to this question. But one thing that is very interesting is that this last three column here shows, I'm going to read, sometimes the suffering makes me doubt that God is all powerful. You see that few people believe on that. Even, you are suffering and, like only like I would say less than 20% think that there is no God of that God is not all powerful. The other question is sometimes the suffering make me doubt that God is entitled, loving, kind. So again, doubt about God, doubt about if God is powerful, doubt about if God is loving, kind. And the last one, sometimes I think the suffering in the world is an indication that there is no God. You see that less than 20% of people that think that God is not in control, that God is not um, loving, and that makes sense, right? If the first column is telling that more than 20%, so what's left 20 is more than 80% believe that God is not responsible. So we have 20% that is even in doubt that there is a God, right? That is all powerful. So this is to show that we already have nowadays, the current time of our planet, that we have a lot of good people out there, and people that really attribute, the the that God has nothing to do with what's happened. That at the end we are responsible. But the question is, Daniel, how can we revert that, right? How can we make a society better, and reconnect with God, right? Because if we are not connected with the good, automatically we may be more inclined to do evil, right? So very quick too, this is just to show to you good and evil throughout time. This is like, I like to, this is Google provide this, and thank you to Google provide this way so you can search, and this is called the Ngrams viewer. So pretty much what Google does, he index words throughout time, right? So this shows um, throughout time, like I this show from the 1500 until 2019, how many times the word good and evil together appear in books, speech, and written in different language. And this show to us that, of course, before the 1600, um, this was a question that was not talking much, and we know that, right? We are just like come from the dark age, in a time that freedom was completely suppressed. Good evil was something that we cannot even question, because the religion was the one that dictated that, and you have to accept. But then when we after the 1600, we see that more books start to be written, and people start to talk more about what is good, what's evil. And we have a decline, this like in the 1900, but after 2000 it starts to go up, especially because of the terrorist attack, and more question starts to be raised, about what is good, what is evil, and how can we mitigate that. This is just a curiosity for us to think about it. Now, if we go to the religions area, the religions teachings, like let's go to the uh, the oldest religion in humanity, that is the Hinduism. This concept of good is very clear for them, right? And it's pretty much finding the karmas and the dharmas. That pretty much is the result of our action. We are not here to talk about the deepen what the religion brings, but we just wanted to highlight. So the Hinduism believe that, there is this duality in the universe, that we are, part of God, but what make us to um, come and reincarnate and be part of this circle that they call circle of samsara, that is that, circle that mention about, um, we are born, we live, we die, and the rebirth, like birth, live, die, and rebirth. So we are in this circle of samsara, and we are there because we are attached to things, right? So we need to detach it in order for us to go back to the creator, to God, and be part of God. So there is all this um, this teaching in the Hinduism religion or philosophy, and that's pretty much relate to what our actions, right? And if our actions are negative action, we be come back and reincarnate as many times as possible. We call this karma, right? And the opposite of karma would be dharmas, that is the good action, that we free ourselves to escape of this circle of samsara. So if we looking for the Christians religion, here Christian religion is all religion that um, accepts Jesus as the Son of God. We see pretty much of them attribute the evil as a result of the original sin, right? And with the result of the original sins, and also with the free will to choose between right and wrong. And also some of the religions more strong in the sense that evil is carried out by Satan, that there is an entity out there that is responsible to disseminate evil, right? And to spread this evil force. We know that if we assume that this is true, that there is another force that is created by another entity, um, the next question we probably would ask is that why God allowed this to happen, or did God create this other entity, right? Of course, there is many theory that the entity Satan is an angel that was fallen angels that didn't follow God's, disobey. They disobey, and then they became the opposite. So create this duality, right, about good and evil. So about the materialistic point of view, um, the evil of existence, such as a sin, sickness, and death, are natural physical phenomena. So, for those that don't believe in God, just have a materialistic point of view, we just like, oh, has nothing to do. God doesn't exist. This is like this. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. This is part of a physical phenomenon. It's a natural phenomenon that happen. We have just one life. Once we die, that's it. Nothing will carry out, right? So all this is what, and we have many people out there, our planet, people that translate between those beliefs. And but one thing is in common. I mean, like we all agree that that is action that's not good, that doesn't allow us to progress, that bring pain, bring suffering, right? And in those actions that's not created by man, like calamity, like natural disaster, it's still very hard to explain, because then we think, okay, if God's good, why God's will let something like that happen to kill innocent people? Okay, so that bring us to really see this topic of good and evil in a it's very complex, I would say. Now I want to bring the spiritism, right? To give this introduction, bring spiritism and some question of the Spirit's book to help us to understand, bring the Spirit's view on this good and evil, okay? So, question 112, Kardec asks, are spirit good or evil by nature, or may they seek to improve themselves? And the answer is very short. They may improve themselves, and as they do so, they pass from one lower order to the higher one. That's not it's not a strong answer. It's just like, yeah, they may improve themselves, may improve themselves. The answer is not they must, it may. The spirits say that we have the responsibility. It's up to us, right? And later, 3 questions later, Kardec come back and they ask in a different way. Have some spirits been created good and other evil? And the answer is, it's a long answer, but I just short the answer here for what's more important. God has created all spirits simple and ignorant, i.e., without knowledge. Simple and ignorant means without knowledge, without experience. God has given each of them a mission. It is aimed at enlightening them and progressively leading them toward perfection through knowledge of truth in order to draw them near to God. So pretty much it's like we are created simple and ignorant, without knowledge, without experience, you know. But we have a mission. We are created like this with being perfective, being there is a perfective force inside of us that draws to be to be close to God, to evolve and be close to God. And this is the knowledge that we acquire that will bring us to know the truth. And the truth, when we talk about the truth here, is the natural truth, right? Is the divine truth that we are every is like, and in this question there is a sub question that Kardec come back and says, oh, is this like a child that when they're born doesn't know much, and then as the child grow, you become a old child, and then a teenager, and then he or she is learning. And they say, yeah, that's a good comparison. So pretty much we are all created equal. We are created simple and ignorant, but how fast we will develop, we will like evolve, it will depend on us. But we have the tools for that, right? So then in this same part of the Spirit's book, around the question 100 to 113, we find something very interesting that will shed light to this question of good and evil. And we call this part the Hyspirity Hierarchy. So in that part of the book, so Kardec categorized, based on the spiritual level of the spirit, 10 classes, 10 category, okay? 10. So, but then inside of this 10, he broke it down in 3 classes, right? The first one is the third classes. So here we find the third class is spirit that's considered imperfect spirit. And the characteristic of this imperfect spirit is predominance of matter over spirit, propensity to evil, ignorance, pride, selfishness. But here's what is interesting. There is a vague intuition about God, but no understanding. That's pretty much our planet right now, right? So inside of this third category, and the planet Earth is in this third category. We are still there. We are not yet in the second one. Now we can find here in our planet people in these different classes, right? Impure, frivolous, pseudo-learned, neutral, disturbing. right? But here is something. It's not that everybody is like that. We have people that maybe they are from the second world, but incarnate and live here right now. You know, there are people that's already like has some when we some like predominance of spirit of matter, but we are talking here about the majority, right? The majority bring average and put us in this the third order, right? The next one is the second one. Here we find the spirit that is benevolent, learned, wise, and high order. And those spirit that is in the second order is called, this category is called good, right? And pretty much the predominance of spirit of matter, so it's the opposite of the third order, and desire to do good always. That's a very good, very important information, because in the third order, we have people that has the desire to do good, but it's not always, right? We have this up and down, depends of the level of uh, of our evolution, right? Spiritual evolution. And the first class, the first order, is the order pure spirit. In that order, they are characterized by not influenced by matter, absolute intellectual and moral superiority in relation to the other orders. Reincarnation only happen if it is for a mission. They don't even like keep reincarnating anymore. The spirit that is pure spirit is those that is is already graduated in the spiritual evolution, right? And our planet just one spirit, as spirit is teaching us, that was Jesus, that has been uh, incarnated in the planet Earth 2,000 years ago. So above all this, we have who? God. So God is the only one that has the absolute goodness. Is the only one that is absolute good. When Jesus was approached by a man and asked about, when the man said, "Good master, good teacher," and Jesus replied, "I'm not good. Good only God, the Father that's in heaven," right? You can call me master, you can call me teacher, but not good. So good is 100%. Let's put this in number. God is 100% good. Now, spirit, the first order, is 99% good. Let's just put in percentage so we can understand that better. The spirit that's in first order cannot be 100% good, because otherwise this spirit is going to become God, and that we're going to have a problem, right? We cannot have two gods. So if we go from the top down, from the first order to the third order, let's just assume that the first order is, all the spirit in first order is 99% good. The second one would be 90 or 95% good. The third one would be less than 50, right? So now, in order for us to visualize this better, if we put this in a graph like this, so, and this would be like a degree of purity, right? We are talking about a spirit that is impure to become pure, right? And again, when we say impure, it's not because it's dirty. It's because it's the lack of knowledge, without knowledge, simple and ignorant, as we mentioned in the first question, right? So if you have this degree of purity, we can see it, like if we put call over there, that as you go up in the scale of evolution, let me use it. So you see that the gradient is changed. So as we become more spiritualized, as we become more in connection with the Creator, then we are moving up, right? And then what we now this good and evil will only become good, right? Evil is not gonna prevail. It's not evil is gonna disappear. This force is like good and evil be a force that now is transforming. It's not these two separate forces. It's just one force that now is transforming and become just one. It's like, for example, if you have a bucket of water, right? Like dirty water, very dirty, like black, dirty water, mud. So what is the best way to clean that water? You even can get the water and throw away, and then, but the idea is that what's the best way to do that without losing the water? Keep the vessel. Is put clean water, right? If you put like a rose with clean water over there, you're gonna see with time that dirty water will spill over. You get get out of, because now you're putting clean water. So it's the same thing as us as a spirit, right? We are created simply ignorant, and then suddenly we acquire experience. We are improving our knowledge, but we are used for the wrongdoing. We are not used this to progress. So now we have all these things inside of us, embedding our evolution. How can we get rid of that? By become more spiritualized, right? We cannot like remove overnight a bad deed that we did, right? The bad action that we did. So this shows to us, um, just like our presentation in Spiritism, that depends of the scale we are in the evolution. We define good and bad, good and evil, according to our level of evolution, right? For God, for the pure spirit, there is no evil. There is no evil for them. God never came here and said, this, this is wrong. No, there is no evil. Because the good and the evil is a product of the use of free will and our passions. How we use that, we're going to create evil. So in that way, the survey is right, right? Everybody knows that's not God's fault. But God doesn't also, because now we have the free will, doesn't stop us to do it. That's why we have suffering, right? So then we can also see like the evil being the negative and then go to positive, something like that. If we use number, we can put from 0 to 100, and we see that 100 is God, and 0 would be the the um the ignorant spirit, right? The one that without knowledge, right? So this brings to us a different perspective to see good and bad, right? Because even Jesus was very careful to tell that good only is God. Even himself, he didn't want to have the title of good, Of course, I'm not saying that we don't do good things. What I'm saying here is absolute good, only God. We have moments that we have different levels of good. We have moments that we act in a good way, for sure, right? But in the overall, in the lifespan, it's not more than 50% of our life. 50% of our life, we are still not doing good. We think, we think about it, but sometimes our action does not reflect a good action, right? We have people in our third world that has shown to us that it's possible. People that, like Mother Teresa, like Gandhi, Chico Xavier in Brazil, that and a lot of anonymous people that has been, spirit that definitely is already fitting the second order over there, but is living among us, right? And that's good because it's helping to change the environment. Let me see my time here. Yeah, we're almost there. I have a couple of questions that I would like to go through from the Spirit's book. When Kardec asked, what definition may be given to morality? That's very important because to talk about good and bad, we need to also ask the question about what's moral, what's And the Spirit said, morality is the rule of good conduct. In another words, it is the ability to distinguish between good and evil. It is founded on the advance of God's law. Humans behave correctly when they do everything for the good of all. For them, they obey God's law. So everything that go according to God's law, we consider something moral, right? Sometimes we mistake the teachings, and then we define this morality according to our own interests, and that has created a lot of problem in religion, in society. But again, based on the scale in the category of evolution of spirit that we have presented before, depends of the level of our spirituality, we'll just give what we have, right? Just give what we have. The next question, how can we distinguish between good and evil? Good is everything that is in harmony with God's law, whereas evil is everything that deviates from it, thus doing what is good conforms to God's law, while doing evil infringe on it. Well, if we want to know what's good or evil, we need to know the divine laws. We need to study. We need to stop to give opinion based on just what I think. You know, what I think maybe is not what humanity, the people that has shown to us uh, is is agree with us, right? So that's why it's good for us to study, to read, to try to understand, to observe people, to see what people is doing that is making a difference in our society, right? Uh, do humans have the means within them to distinguish between good and evil? I mean, do we have the tools to distinguish between good and evil? Yes, when they believe in God, they mean we believe in God and desire to know God, who has given them, we give us intelligence to discern one from the other. So it's not only have knowledge, but also acknowledge that there is a supreme intelligence out there. And we should also reconnect to the supreme intelligence as well. If we just disconnected, I mean, sooner or later we'll like fall, right? We are not all powerful. And that's a question that we need to ask ourselves. But to finalize, I would like to, I think this is my last slide. So the question is, what's the steps here to happiness? Because to know about good and evil, how can this make me happy? Well, first, we already gave several of information here, right? Acting according to God's law will definitely draw you to happiness moment. But then I have done everything right in this life. You know, from your perspective, everything you have done is right, is good. But why am I still suffering, right? Well, maybe you are doing good at that, but not enough yet, right? So here is something that we find in the Spirit's book. This is in the question 922. Pretty much Kardec asked the condition for one's happiness. You know, what is the step for to find happiness, right? And the Spirits gave like just 3 steps, just 3. Okay, that's why we have 3 steps over there in this on the sand. The first, you know, possession of all that is necessary. We should only possess what's necessary. A lot of our suffering nowadays because we wanted to have more than we need. All right, that's number one. Number two, have a good conscience or peace of mind, right? Which means I have to watch out my behavior. I have to behave well so I cannot create problem to make me suffering. Number three, and that's not me saying, that was the answer that the spirits give to us in the spirits book. faith in the future. So faith in the future is that connection that we need to establish with God. Have faith in the future. Because sometimes if we are doing everything right today and we still suffering, we are lacking some faith in the future, right? Now, Daniel, okay, so this is 3 steps. Possession of all that's necessary, good conscience, faith in the future. Now, what the opposite of this? What is the condition to make someone unhappy? And if you find ourselves unhappy, is pretty much this list upside down. And the answer, Kardec asked the same question opposite way later in question 943. Kardec asked about the same question, but regards to, unhappiness. And 3 answer. So the spirit didn't like create morphing news. It just like put this 1, 2, 3 in an opposite way. And I'm going to put it here. I start with 3. Lack of faith. So if you see number 3, condition to be happy is faith in the future. So unhappiness, lack of faith, right? 2, idleness. If we don't work our mind, if we don't work our intellect, if you don't work, so will make us unhappy, right? And excess. That's, I don't know how to pronounce this word, satiate. I'm gonna bring Leo here to pronounce for me. Leo, you have to pronounce this for me.
Satiate.
I'll put you in spotlight. How do you say again?
Satiate.
Satiate. That pretty much is having more and more and more, and it is things that make us unhappy. Because if we go and we need to get a material thing, for example, that we make you happy, then tomorrow a new thing comes, and then one day we realize that you accumulate so much that now you are unhappy because you never find happiness in outside. So this is the 3 conditions for us to achieve happiness. And to finalize, there is also the condition for one's salvation. And this we're going to bring our Master Jesus, because he was the one that gave the answer. It's 3 things. The first, love God above all things, love your neighbor, and love yourself. That's it. Let's pretend that these 3 things are 100%. If we just love God above all things, you were just doing like 1/3, not 1/3, like 33%, right? If you love God above one thing and you love your neighbor, you are doing like 6% only, right? But if you don't love yourself, if you just love yourself, you're just doing 33. So the condition is the 3. We need to put the 3. So you need to ask yourself, and if we bring spiritism here to kind of interpret this, so would be like, love God about everything is this connection that we need to establish daily with God. The love your neighbor means charity, and love yourself in a transformation. So pretty much this is the math. This is the 3 things that will help us to suffering less and to see the world in our life with a good eyes, right? So I wanted to stop here, and with this two question and a quote. The question that Kardec asks is, in order to be pleasant to God and to ensure our future situation, it is enough to simply not do what is evil? And the answer, no. All must do good to the limit of their abilities, since all will answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good that was left undone. So it's not enough not to do evil. We must do good anyway, right? If we just stay in our home, do nothing, don't harm anyone, don't harm ourselves, but it's not go outside and will not help whoever is in need, so we are still doing evil, right? And finalize with this quote from Mahatma Gandhi when he says, "No comparison with evil is as much a duty as comparison with good." So with that, I would like to stop here. I know that I believe you have put your question, your comments on the chat about that question about, you know, uh, action, uh, a good action, intentional action that will minimize or not the result of an evil effect. I'll bring Leo here so we can see if we have some question or comment.
Thank you, Daniel. Just a clarification, it's not satiate, it's actually satiety.
I
That
knew.
is the correct
That's why.
way to say it. But you caught me off hand here because I'm looking at excess and I'm thinking to be, how am I going to say this? I think that the right word to say is to be full, right? Or to be
Full, yes.
satiated or to be,
Yeah.
have enough, right?
It's yeah,
But
yeah, but
the word that you brought, it was actually satiety. That's what it is.
satiety. So I just wanted to give a try. So I put you in the spot because I knew that was not gonna be easy for me. But yes, it's this idea to have more. You want to have more and more. It's the excess, right?
Yeah,
In another
yeah,
word, is have things that sometimes you don't need it, but you need to have because I don't know, is strange, right?
yeah. The
So
fullness, right?
the
To have always
fullness
that
there.
feel. Yeah. But thank you, Daniel, for this amazing talk and bringing, let's say, dissecting these two words, right, or these two feelings, or these two state of mind, whichever way we want to put into it. It is not easy because we have been, for lack of better words, really. Um, Punished for the idea of being evil, right, or feeling evil, or doing something wrong, or as we call the sins, as well as we have been for the longest time ever, for many, many reincarnations, devoided from the ability to feel happy, right, or to do good, right, because we're always under this impression that we have limitations. Yeah, we do have limitations, but we also have a lot inside of us that we can process and help others grow as well. So again, thank you so much for bringing the clarification under different religions, and most importantly, since we are in a spiritist setting, to bring the spiritist view as well in how we can grow, right? And I add one more thing here as you were going through this, the explanations. It not only serves for us, really, like me, dealing with Leo, right? As we talked, Yasko talked about, forgiveness and not connecting with the wrongdoer, as we read in the message by Joanna de Angelis today, but also how we connect with others, right? Because we can see that the person is not evil, the act is evil, the act is wrong, and the person should be given the ability to correct as well. Now, enough with my comments. Hope you caught your breath there. Let me just say some hellos to our friends here. Kirsten saying good afternoon, and many others who are following us. We have Paula here with us. We have I please don't forgive me beforehand. I'm just gonna put the comment here. We have Ars Realina here with us. Yask is also with us. And for right now, that's all I can see. Probably many others, who are in the background with us as well. I would like to start here with Kirsten in terms of questions, Daniel, when she says good and evil. Aren't these just philosophical questions because we are all just imperfect spirits in transition to our best self?
Yeah, it's philosophical question that has serious actions and brings suffering, right? So unfortunately, our language is still lacks a way to express um, this, and became a complex thing because since we are in different levels of evolution, and the way we see the world is different, right? Because of culture, because of impositions that we have, this somehow um, um, define how we see these actions that is not helpful, you know what I mean, and we name it that, right? Evil, because I mean, like we see in spiritism as we evolved. um and also like is a product of our free will, right? At the moment, and we need to have the free will, because how can we learn, how can we learn things? We need to be put in a situation that we need to make decision, and those decisions sometimes is not uh, um, the best decision, right? And can cause what? Can cause suffering to ourselves or to others, right? For example, let's go back a little bit in history when we see like all the dogmas that the Catholic Church use to explain this thing of good and evil, right? Because they create dogma, they don't know how to explain that, but they want it to be, and behind that there is some, I would say, and we see this through history, like intention to control, to it was like, and we still have this nowadays, like that intention to um, um impose to others what we think is the right thing, right? We are not in the position of institution to create dogmas or to create laws, but how many times we act in our daily life with those little dogmas that we have, right? But the way we see, the way we do is the right way. And we really, in the name of freedom, we make decisions that can be harmful, right? It is a philosophical question, but has serious consequences because we don't dissect those philosophical questions, right? You're mute, Leo.
Thank you, Daniel. Um, and then Kirsten, I believe, was actually following up on or answering the question that you posed. The first question, perhaps a mix of both, Daniel, passion and free will, right? That you also clarified. I don't know if you have any other comments on it.
Yeah, so the answer was in the text when they say that the abuse of those, when we abuse our free will, when we abuse our passion, then we are committed evil. Because when we abuse that, even to, again, I mean, one of the things that we may ask, like when they, to have the evil thing, you need to have an intention, right? Like for example, um as I mentioned, like you need to have a relationship to be action to be defined evil, right? Because if you're by yourself in the middle of the desert, nobody to interaction, there is no evil, right? The evil only happens when we are in that context, when we are in this moment of relationship, of community. Then we are learning how to you know define our freedom, define our free will, and then we are stepping in another area that's not supposed to. That's create a problem, right?
Very well, Daniel. Thank you so much for the answer. Moving on then to a comment by Paula, and this now I believe has to do with the second question that you posed in terms of the good intention making the effects lesser, right? This question has me remembering a nun in high school who said to me, "Way to hell is paved with good intentions," and then Kirsten came and said brought the same idea too. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. We can have the best intentions but still hurt others unintentionally.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think this is comment about that question. Like, if you have a good action, a good intention, will less the evil effect. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, like, we may not have the intention, good intention, but once the action happen and hurt someone, there is a effect over that is not enjoyable, right? So doesn't erase the situation just because you have good intention. Yeah.
Daniel, one question that I would like to pose here, one comment that I would like to pose here is by again I'm gonna try to say this, try to say your name, R is Raylina, when she says evil is evil and it is what it is. Um, how truthful it is, and what to what extent we can see this.
Yeah, I think we need to put in context. Yeah, it depends of the culture, for example, right? Depends of the situation. For example, yeah, we may. I agree with her. In that context, could be is right. Evil is evil in that context, in that culture, in that place. Not necessarily would be evil in the whole universe, right? Maybe so. Uh, there is a true. There is a truth on what she said, and I agree that needs to be put in a context of um, that there is a lot of things that was done, that was said, that was evil, and nowadays there is no evilness, right? For example, if you in the Middle Age, if you believe that the Earth was rounded and rotate, so you are like commit an evil thing, right? We're gonna be so. It depends the culture that create that story, and how they impose this. That would be. Now, let's differentiate what human created and what it is divine laws. Divine laws doesn't change. It's the same here in the planet Earth. It's the same in Jupiter. It's the same in another um, constellation, whatever, in the universe. Well, so then we need to put in that perspective. So what I'm doing that will affect the whole universe, the God's law. I mean, like when you look at the scripture, we see that for example, what Jesus brought to us, what Moses brought to us, that is a uh, um, um, uh, um, set of conduct that we need to behave so we will not transgress God's law, right? Like, for example, don't kill, don't steal, don't do that, don't, you know what I mean? Love God. So that is a suggestion for us to do it. That will help us to evolve more like without much suffering, right? So we have all this already at our disposal, right? So it's up to us to apply in our daily life, but things becomes complicated, right? And this can be another story because we know if we just assume that we just have this lifetime, yeah, it's hard to understand. That's why in spiritism we bring us another element to explain the cause of our suffering. There is a beautiful chapter number 5 in the Gospel according to Spiritism that's explain about the past and present of suffering, and bring the elements of that's not the first time we are here, and sometimes we are suffering for things that we have done 5 lifetimes ago, not now in this lifetime. And that put thing can complicate more our understanding about good and evil, right?
Perfect, Daniel. Thank you. I'm going to continue with these comments here. I think we have a couple more that involves the question that you posed when Iasko said the problem is what we don't know or don't want to be truthful about our intention. There is a significant and sometimes unconscious interference of our second agenda.
Very true. I have no comment on her comment. I have no comment on her comment because yes, and that brings to us that idea that is the question 919, the Spirit's book, about Kardec asked what is the most effective means to draw us out of evil, okay? And the answer is simple: know thyself, right? Know thyself. And I think what the ask brought is perfect. It's like sometimes we are even not aware about our intention, so sometimes we have a hidden agenda because we don't want it to reveal ourselves. We know what we want, and then Yask is correct on that. I agree with him.
And then just as a follow up, please read that question and please read the answer. But what comes after the answer as well? There's a follow up to it, and there is a beautiful explanation by Saint Augustine in terms of what to do. What is to
Yeah,
know thyself means. It's beautiful.
yeah,
I really ask that everyone goes and read about it because it's a beautiful way that we can end our day, right, by analyzing our conduct throughout the day, right? What we did, and fun enough, is what we didn't do throughout the day. Because sometimes we think, we worry about what we do, and most of the time what we did wrong, which is a good thing, right? But also we forget that there were good that was left undone, if we can say it that way. And that in itself, it is still a sign of evil, a sign of ignorance, and because we haven't learned yet. So thank you for bringing that to the discussion, Daniel.
yeah.
So moving on to a comment that I made here, I think it's prudent to bring this turnaround, right? Consequences are consequences. Intention will not change the harm done. However, if the intention was good, the individual will probably be more prone to fix the problem caused.
That's true.
And it speaks for itself. I think that if the person, really finds out, okay, you know what, my intention was great, the results were poor. Let me fix it, right? If the good intention was at heart, definitely that person will be more prone to fix the issue.
And it's interesting because in the human law, even if, for example, if you commit a crime and if you free the crime scene, doesn't mean that you're not going to be brought to justice, I mean, unless you cannot be found, right? But it's not because you are not in the crime scene that you are not be guilty, or you're not going to be prosecuted. So because the act is done, so you need to respond for that, right? And sometimes we do this in lifetimes and we are not caught, right? And we come follow far, like go to another lifetime, then we are find ourselves in a situation that we keep saying, oh, that's not fair, that's not fair. But past lifetime you flee the crime scene. Right.
Right, right. So continue here. I have Kirsten with a question. Not influenced by matter, pure spirit, but does not this mean we become devoid of feeling anything for the outside world or be impacted by it? Or is it that we have control over how we react? So this is, I believe, in regarding the
The
orders of
scale, the
spirits.
other spirit.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, kissing, that's a good question. I don't know, because only the pure spirit can answer this more clear. I'm not there yet. We are not there yet. But by what the spirits bring to us, I think you're right on that. So when we say not influenced by matter, is that it's like let's look at Jesus' life, right? Let's look like Mother Teresa's life. Definitely, I mean, like they need to. I mean, if we're incarnate in a planet that matter still need, they will use matter in the sense that is useful for the good, right? The problem here when we say that all the action that we do has a materialistic end or have a spiritual end. What's the end point of that? Okay, so that's what we need to ask. Because I mean, like living in a materialistic world doesn't mean that we need to our action has an end point that needs to be materialistic per se. We can use the end point to help us spiritually evolved, right? Without, I would say, without that idea that that thing that I'm doing materialist will bring me happy, will bring me satisfaction, will, but is like momentaneous, instantaneous. After that, so it's things that you do that will stay with you, not in this life, but when you move to another life, right? Because everything we do that stay here is like temporary, definitely will not serve for you in the next lifetime, right? So if we do something that when you are like in our 20s, in the moment of death, we are still feeling good about that, that is still resonate inside of us, that is something that will carry out, will help in our evolution. Now, if we do something that we just experience that moment and then time goes by and that didn't change anything, so it's a materialistic thing, right? So it depends how much we put it on that action.
Very well, Daniel. Thank you. Paula makes a comment and saying by saying, just like an animal in the wild attacks and eats another animal, there is a natural order that is always operating when we tune into it. Very well.
True, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. Yeah, that's true. That is a natural word. Yes, yes, it is. Yeah.
And then we move on, Daniel. You said a lot about God's law, the natural laws, right? Where can we learn more about it?
Question 625 of the Spirit's book. Uh, so of course, God's law, according to the superior spirit, is written in our conscience. But you say, but Daniel, how can I, you know? Well, the laws is there as a seed, right? So you don't expect that a seed is gonna go from a seed state to a fruit in overnight. You need to put fertilized water. We need, so that's those things that is in our conscience require us to do our inner journey and to get to know ourselves for us to put that in practice, you know. So that's the virtues that we need to acquire. That's it.
Very well, very well. Well, one thing that I would like to add, Daniel, as well as the if you needed the didactical, um, you know, part of it or learning, the third part of the spirits book, the whole third part of it is comprised of all 10 laws that
Yeah.
one can dive into it. And the for those who speak Portuguese, not yet in English, hopefully will be in English soon. Joana de Angelis also has an amazing book called Moral Laws of Life, and that it really breaks down each law as well and gives you, let's say, very good examples for our daily lives. And hopefully, again, I mean, I have this book in PDF, and it's an amazing thing. And I wish it was already in English. Since we're talking about it, hopefully it will land on our hands one day to bring it to English, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely an idea to make sure that we're diving within ourselves, knowing ourselves, right? Knowing ourselves. Paula making one of the final comments here. Discernment. Oh, excuse me. Discernment answers the questions: harmful or helpful. His spiritual maturity accepts the lesson and learns. Very, very well thought
Very
out.
well done.
Yes. Yeah.
Paula, you are in tune of the good spirits over there in your beautiful home. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, discernment is the key. Yeah, it's something that I think we need to exercise more, especially in the moment that we are experiencing now. You know, we have a lot of lack of discernment, and people is acting crazy out there, right? Without think about the consequences. Yeah, that's good.
Daniel,
Thank you, Paula.
does discernment comes with intellectual knowledge?
Intellectual knowledge helps. Yes, intellectual knowledge helps, and that's a question that we have in the Spirit's book when Kardec asked about. So, what is more important, the moral or the intellectual? You know, and the Spirit answered beautifully. You know, the march of progress comprised with the evolution, moral and intellect together, but the intellect may help to choose between right and wrong. So, I mean, the intellectual is a very strong tool that can help us to speed up our evolution. But what we have seen, the majority, is that we lose the we lose ourselves. Sometimes our intellect is too high and we lose ourselves out there. But is a very strong tools, and for those that has a easy way to reason things, use that for goodness because you're gonna speed up your evolution.
Thank you, Daniel. And then finally, with Yasko here, when she asks, what will the tips for everyday routine to get out of the vicious cycle behind the affirmation of Paul? Why I don't do the good that I want to do, but continue to do the bad I do not want to do? Good
Three
question,
things, yes, three things.
right?
But I'm gonna repeat the three things. Love God, reconnect with God. Everything you do, think about being an instrument of God. Everything we do, think about I'm being an instrument of God in this moment. When we say everything, mean through our thought, through our action, right? To our feelings. Three things. First one. Second one, love your neighbor. Who is your neighbor? Anyone that is close to you that needs help, that, even those that's not easy ones, make an effort to accept the way that they are. And the third one, this is the second. The third one, love yourself. Love yourself is not be selfishness. Is look at yourself in the mirror. I'm a child of God. I have limitation. I'm in the process of evolution. I know that I'm not alone. That's it. Three things. Three things. That is the recipe from Jesus. It's not mine, right? Jesus said, love God above all things, love your neighbor as yourself. We broke down in three because we put yourself, love yourself, right? And and that's it. That's the routine that we need to do it. You know, I think that will help us to, you know, to control our suffering. Not gonna remove our suffering, but will help us to be more in control, manage better.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much. And to finalize, two comments here. Kirsten says, "Great talk and making us all think." Very true. I mean, it is definitely we have acquired a lot of knowledge, right? And I think this is an invitation for sure for us to make us think as well as to act accordingly to what we have learned, not accordingly to this or that law,
Mhm.
or but truly, I think we have enough information in our hands that we can act a little bit more harmoniously, especially after this talk. And then Paula says, instead of what is wrong, think of what is strong.
Strong.
So
Wow. Very poetic, Paula.
I
Thank
know
you.
she's really like connected
She's very
today. She
connected today. I mean, like Paula, like spot on, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was
Yes,
great.
that's true. Well, Daniel, once more, thank you for this presentation. Thank you for really inviting us in a good way and teasing us to really get together and really think about this idea of good and evil, and put us in perspective where we are with this whole thing too, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we would like to ask you to say the final prayer, please.
Okay, so let us let us take this moment and be thankful for this opportunity that we all have today to reflect upon this topic of good and evil. Bless dear Lord, our planet, especially those that are in the war zone in Ukraine, but also all those families that has been experienced small wars in their homes. All families, children's, may they be blessed and received your blessings so they can cope with their suffering as well. Thank you for everything you have provided us, all these teachings, this information, and may we have the strength to continue applying this in our daily life. Bless everyone that is here with us, virtually speaking, in the spiritual plane as well. And so be it.